This is a stimulus update and daily news report. Looks like we may have one state stepping forward to offer that pandemic unemployment assistance. I'll let you know which state that is and what's going on there. Looks like the House Majority Leader has set a date of when the big vote will happen. When it comes to the meeting between Joe Manchin and President Biden, we have more details of what came out of that from the White House. I'll play a video clip of that. Also, I'll play a video clip from Bernie Sanders talking more about negotiating lower drug prices for everybody in America. And I'll give you some other more important updates as well. Hope you're having a wonderful weekend. If you appreciate these fact-based, fast-paced updates, hit the like button down below, and I'm giving $200 to my subscribers. I'll have more details to that down in the description below. Let's get into it. So Davis to introduce legislation to reinstate Fund Pandemic Unemployment Assistance. So that's that PUA, and program provides critical help for vulnerable Pennsylvanians. So this is just happening in the state of Pennsylvania. When the enhanced unemployment was ending, President Biden said states could continue it, they just have to pay for it themselves. So this is just at the legislation point. So Representative Austin Davis will introduced legislation to reinstate fully fund the Pandemic Unemployment Assistance Program, which recently expired. So this is just introducing legislation. Doesn't mean it's going to pass and it's going to happen, but it's just at the legislation point, and no other states are doing this at the moment. But it's probably going to get a lot of opposition from Republicans, so it may not happen. In terms of other extended enhanced unemployment, so Ocasio-Cortez and Cori Bush pushed to add expanded unemployment in $3.5 trillion spending plan. So I've gone over that exact bill a few times. They're trying to get that into the $3.5 trillion package, among many other proposals that are going in there. So far, it doesn't look like it's going to go in there. It hasn't gained much support from other Democrats. That would continue the unemployment benefits until February 1st of 2022. When it comes to that $3.5 trillion package, looks like we have a date. So Steny Hoyer affirms House will vote September 27th on bipartisan infrastructure bill. Now you may notice here, it says bipartisan infrastructure bill, and Nancy Pelosi seems to be keeping her word and her promise that she's not going to vote for the bipartisan unless the $3.5 trillion gets a vote as well. So we'll see what happens. This is going to be a big week coming up, September 27th, and we have another date, another deadline. Let me know down in the comments below, do you think they're actually going to stick to this deadline? Let me know your thoughts on that down in the comments below. Now, there was a big blow to Bernie Sanders. So Bernie Sanders is disappointed in House panel's vote on drug prices. I mentioned this briefly the other day. So the House had a vote of whether or not to allow drug prices to decrease and negotiate lower drug prices. But Bernie Sanders called out a bunch of other Democrat representatives who are being paid off by the pharmaceutical industry, including one Democrat rep who is the highest paid Congress member, or at least in the House, by pharmaceutical companies. Here's a video clip of Bernie Sanders talking more about that.
This really is a pivotal moment in American history. Through the reconciliation bill, what we are doing is taking on virtually every powerful special interest in this country. And I'm talking about the drug companies and the insurance companies and the fossil fuel industry and corporate America and the wealthiest people in this country. Because what we are trying to do, among many other things, is lower the cost of prescription drugs in America. Because the American people are sick and tired, in some instances, of paying 10 times more for the same exact drug sold in Canada or in Europe. And what the pharmaceutical industry has done year after year, pour huge amounts of money in lobbying, into campaign contributions. In fact, they have spent over $4 billion in lobbying and campaign contributions in the last 10 years. So that the result is that they can raise their prices to any level they want. They can double the price of the drug you're getting tomorrow, and that's legal because they write the laws. And today, 1 out of 5 Americans cannot afford the medicine they need. How outrageous is that? How outrageous is it that thousands of people literally die each year because they don't get the insulin, they don't get the medicine that they desperately need, but they can't afford it?
What are your thoughts on what Bernie Sanders has to say? A little hard to hear, but you could see he's talking a lot, not too happy about the outcome that came over the drug prices. Do you think drug prices should be lowered? Should it stay the same? Let me know your thoughts on that down in the comments below. Next, let's talk about how Biden meets with Senator Manchin and Kyrsten Sinema as Democrats try to build support for $3.5 trillion bill. So I mentioned the other day how the White House said it was a productive meeting, things were good coming out of the meeting. Looks like we're able to get a little more information out of it. Here's a video clip giving more info on that meeting.
The White House is pushing forward now on the president's signature spending plan, but the road to passing the reconciliation bill in the Senate just got more rough. Axios reporting President Biden's one-on-one meeting with moderate Democrat Senator Joe Manchin this week did not result in a deal on the spending bill. Instead, the West Virginia senator doubled down on his refusal to back the $3.5 trillion price tag. Joining us now, White House Director of the National Economic Council, Brian Deese. Brian, good morning. It's good to see you. So what does this mean for the future of this massive spending package? Obviously, you need Joe Manchin, you need Kyrsten Sinema. You need all of them because of the 50-50 split in the Senate. But if Joe Manchin says, I'm not moving on this, where does that leave you guys?
Well, look, I appreciate the role that headline writers have in trying to write those types of headlines. But the truth is we're making progress. We continue to make progress. Senator
What does that
Manchin,
mean? He said he's not going to support the bill. If you don't have him, you don't have a bill.
Well, I'm not going to get into private negotiations. We never do. Private discussions the president is having. But I can tell you that we are making progress on this. We have a lot of issues to work through, but we're working through them. And everybody is focused on the idea that we have to get something done here. We have to get something done here for the country. So we're going to keep that process going. You know, if we tallied up all of the times in which this Build Back Better agenda that President Biden has put forward was declared dead in the public and in the press, then we would have a long, long list. We continue to keep our head down, keep moving, and we are making progress here.
So what does that look like, Brian, then? If it's maybe it won't be $3.5 trillion, maybe it's $1 trillion or $2 trillion. Are you open to giving a little bit to Joe Manchin, and maybe this won't end up being a $3.5 trillion package?
Well, we're going to keep those negotiations among the members of Congress. But what I would say is I think you heard from the president pretty clearly yesterday. The president is and has been open to compromise throughout this process. You saw that in the context of the infrastructure bill that he negotiated. What he's not willing to compromise on is the urgency of moving to address deep structural challenges we have in our economy that have put working class families at a structural disadvantage. And so he's focused on how we can make real progress there. And look, you know, there are different moving parts, and this is the legislative process. The House committees marked up a set of bills over the course of the last couple of weeks. Now the House comes together, thinks about how to stitch that together, and then that'll go to the Senate. That's the process, and we're right in the middle of it right now.
Hey, Brian, it's Sam Stein with Politico. I want to switch gears a little bit, but it's something that could be tucked into this bill, which is the debt ceiling. Mitch McConnell has said repeatedly he's not going to provide a single Republican vote for the debt ceiling. I know you guys think it's hypocritical. It is. But the reality is you're going to need all 50 Democratic senators to raise the debt ceiling. Do you have a preferred avenue to do this? Is it going to be in the government funding bill? And do you think you are going to need to, think outside the box potentially? Because that vehicle requires 60 votes.
So we're confident that this is going to get done. It's absolutely unspeakable and unthinkable that we would allow the federal government to default on the obligations that it has already made. I'd say two things. The first is it's important we go back in very recent history. This month, 4 years ago, September 2017, you had a president controlling both parties of Congress, and they came together, passed a bipartisan short-term funding bill that included disaster relief and a short-term extension of the debt limit. Democrats, right at that moment, were fighting the signature legislation of that president. That was when Donald Trump was pushing his tax cut bill through reconciliation. And yet Democrats came together because it's their responsibility to put votes on the debt ceiling. We have seen this done in a bipartisan way consistently, and the best way to do this is without a lot of drama, without a lot of self-inflicted harm to the economy and to our country, and that's what we're going to do. There's a lot of posturing on this issue, but we're confident at the end of the day we'll get this done.
Brian, it's Katty Kay here. Can I push you a little bit more on Senator Manchin? I mean, he clearly came out of that meeting and he has said that he's not going to support $3.5 trillion. Can you give us more detail on where you are? You say you're making progress, but where is the progress? Because without him, you don't have the deal, you don't have the bill. What are you prepared to give him at least some parameters of the discussion that's taking place to get to somewhere where you can have an agreement with him?
Well, let me make a couple of points. The first is on your question about progress. We saw extraordinary progress in the House over just the last couple of days. The House Ways and Means Committee reported out a package of tax reforms and tax increases that would make good on the president's promise, not only to restore some tax fairness in this country, but also generate revenue to invest in important programs. It wasn't everything that the president proposed. There are members with large ideological differences across that committee, and they were able to come together and work on a package there. And, you know, the question about where this goes forward, a lot of the focus needs to shift and is shifting in these conversations away from this top line. The idea of $3.5 trillion in spending is in and of itself wrong. There's never been a bill that has been $3.5 trillion in spending. This is about tax cuts. This is about investments in the country. And most importantly, everything we're talking about is going to be fully paid for. You know, traditionally, when we talk about pieces of legislation, you talk about the net cost of those pieces of legislation. That certainly was true with respect to the Trump tax cut. Even as you all were talking about the Trump tax cut, you were talking about $1.5–2 trillion. You didn't talk about the fact that it had $6 trillion in gross tax cuts. What we should be focused here on is what is this bill going to accomplish for the economy, and what's the net cost going to be? And we're confident at the end of the day, the net cost is going to be zero.
So it looks like that meeting was not as productive and constructive as they said it was originally. Joe Manchin is not on board when it comes to the $3.5 trillion package, and they're supposed to have a vote this week. We'll find out what happens, what's going to go on there. Next, the $2,000 per month fourth stimulus check petition is currently at 2,889,000 signatures so far on change.org. And as I like to always mention, keeping it real, want to be honest, this fourth stimulus check is not in that $3.5 trillion package. Chances are looking slim, especially with the vote coming up very soon, but always want to let you know the truth of what's going on. Next up is my daughter Bella giving her tip of the day to hopefully cheer you up a bit.
Hi guys, this is Bella. This is the tip of the day. Do you like my stress ball? You squeeze it and then you feel better. So I'm going to tell you one thing you should do. Do the things that you want to do because you only have one life.
Thank you so much for watching. Just want to give you a quick update for Sunday. We're actually visiting some family. As you can tell, it's a different scene right behind me. I got a little dog over here. Got my daughter's bracelet right over here. But yeah, we're having a good time, and I think tomorrow I'll probably be back in the office, back in the studio. Hopefully you had a great weekend. I think it's always good to spend time with family and stuff. But hope you have a great day, great rest of your weekend, and take care, be safe. Thank you for watching.